There comes a moment, without warning, when the eyes of the world begin to pass over you, as if you've become invisible. No more lingering glances, no more curious questions, no one truly stopping long enough to listen to the story you are trying to tell. In a world that worships youth, speed, and novelty, those who are no longer standing in the spotlight suddenly become shadows. They are still there, still smiling, still working, but sometimes the world quietly turns down a different path, leaving them behind, with a sadness even they can barely name. And among these silent souls, there are many women. Women who were once the center of someone's universe, once waited for, admired, and loved simply for the sheer fact of their existence. But then, as the years pass by little, the attention they once held seems to dissolve into the air. The most painful thing is, very few ever truly notice. Because these mature women, never say it out loud. They do not complain, they do not demand, they do not show weakness. They simply withdraw, quietly letting the world spin on as if they had never been there at all. But if you are sensitive enough to recognize the things they never say aloud, if you are perceptive enough to see the shifting lights and shadows they carry on their own shoulders, then you will step into an emotional world few have ever touched. A world where every glance, every silence, every breath holds an untold story, fragile cracks that ask not to be fixed, but to be seen, to be honored. Today, we will walk this journey together, a journey to discover 7 of the most delicate points of connection, the subtle, haunting cracks that can only be seen by a man who is mature enough, steady enough, and patient enough not just to look, but to listen with his whole heart. If this speaks to you, don't hesitate to subscribe and share this video, so we can create a space where silent stories are heard and souls that once felt forgotten can be gently brought back into the light. There are things that the eye cannot see. There are cracks that remain hidden yet quietly persist, lingering like tiny scratches on a transparent glass surface. Older women are not as weak as we often think. They have passed through seasons of bright love, intense years, and the quiet changes life bestows. At this age, loss is no longer a shock, but rather a familiar part of their daily breath. Little by little, they learn to be silent in the face of what they cannot hold on to. They learn to smile lightly when the most important things slip through their fingers, and from there, silent walls begin to form. These are not cold walls. They are softer, like a mist that covers the soul. No one truly knows what they keep behind. But if you look closely, you will see, behind that calm gaze, there are cracks as thin as threads, wounds that have never spoken. There are nights when she lies still in the dark, not reaching for the light. Not because of loneliness, but because she has grown so accustomed to the empty space beside her. There are days when she laughs with a crowd, yet her eyes quietly drift away, to a place only she knows. There are moments when she hears an old song and falls silent for a long time, as if every note is slipping through the cracks in her heart. The most painful thing is not losing love, but losing the ability to believe that she deserves to be loved again. That's why older women don't look for someone to rescue them. They don't need promises to make up for the past, or grand gestures to erase what's come before. What they need is much simpler: someone patient enough to quietly walk towards them, someone sensitive enough to stand there without disturbing the fragile things that remain, someone who knows that the cracks are not to be mended, but to be seen, to be accepted as part of their complete being. We often mistake silence for peace, but sometimes that silence is just their way of patching themselves together, trying not to let anyone see the broken pieces inside. If you rush into their world with a desire to fix them, you will only make those walls thicker. What truly touches the hearts of mature women is not pretty words or grand gestures. It is quiet presence, close enough for her to feel she is not alone, far enough for her to remain free in her own space. It is a gaze without judgment, a smile without demands, a listening ear without pushing for solutions. Because in the end, those cracks do not need to be fixed. They only need someone patient enough to stand beside them, letting them exist peacefully. We are about to dive deep into these delicate touch points, those things that are not easily noticed, but if you are sensitive enough to feel, will open up a world few ever have the chance to enter. Number 1. The desire for true connection, emotional intimacy. One evening, when the city lights have come on, she sits in front of her phone, silently, not waiting for a message from anyone, but also not wanting to be forgotten. In that moment, she isn't seeking loud conversations, nor is she waiting for trivial questions like, "What are you doing?" or "Have you had dinner yet?" She quietly hopes, somewhere, there is someone who truly wants to listen, not to reply, but to truly understand. Emotional connection for mature women is no longer something that can be filled with sweet words or a passionate date. They have passed through phases where sparkling eyes and empty promises were enough to make their hearts tremble. Now, what they desire most is someone who knows how to listen deeply, listening to what they say, and even to the things they leave unsaid. Not everyone can hear the loneliness wrapped in a soft smile. Not everyone can read the long pauses in what seems like a joyful story. She longs to find someone who is not in a hurry to give advice, who is not anxious to fix things, but is patient enough to walk with her through her shaky emotions, like a friend walking along the beach, listening to the sound of the waves without needing to understand every tide. You may ask, why do older women need emotional connection so much? Because the years that have passed not only took away their relationships, but also made them build invisible walls to protect themselves. Every time their heart is hurt, another layer of armor is built. And each time, the desire to find someone patient enough to listen, not out of curiosity, not out of pity, becomes more desperate. A man who truly captivates them is not the one who knows how to speak in flowery words. It is the one who can sit quietly beside them while they share the small things, the seemingly insignificant things that the world doesn't care about, but which are an entire private world within her heart. When you know how to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart, when you learn to cherish the small emotions someone offers you, you open the door to the deepest connection. And once her heart feels safe with you, it is not just a fleeting connection. It is a bond that will remain for a long time, deep and steady, like an underground stream silently flowing through life. But sometimes, even when her heart has been hurt by someone, there remains another fragility, the fear that she is no longer the one who makes someone stop and look, a fear that is unsaid, yet weaves through every very ordinary moment. Number 2, feeling of desirability. In a small corner of the store, under the soft yellow lights, she stands in front of the mirror, gently running her hand over the delicate seams of a dress. This dress she had carefully chosen, not too flashy, not too bold, but just the right fit to highlight her quiet beauty. A simple choice, but one filled with countless small wishes. To have someone stop just a little longer, to have someone see her. Yet when she steps out of the store, amidst the bustling crowd, not a single gaze lingers on that moment. She merely smiles faintly, a smile as if she doesn't care. But behind that smile is a small void, just enough for sadness to slip in. Older women do not need to be admired like the shining stars on a stage. What they long for is simpler, to see that they can still make someone feel something, even with just a fleeting glance. It's not that they no longer believe in themselves. It's just that the world outside has become too busy to notice that quiet beauty. And here a sensitive man will see what the rushed world often misses. He does not need grand praises. All it takes is for his gaze to linger just a little longer, enough for her to realize she is still seen, still valued, not for what has passed, but for the quiet beauty radiating from each present moment. A sincere compliment, no need for embellishments, Like, that dress suits you perfectly, it brightens your eyes. Or even simpler, just a gentle look, a presence filled with attention. Those small things, when given from a sincere heart, have the power to awaken in her a gentle flow, a feeling of being desired, of fully living in each heartbeat. Because it's not age that takes away desirability. It's the indifference of the world that dims that light. When you are sensitive enough to recognize that beauty never fades, you not only make her feel more beautiful, you remind her that she has always deserved the softest gazes. And in that moment, you don't just touch her eyes. You touch her deepest, quietest longing, the longing to still be something special in the midst of life's hurried normalcy. Number 3. Confidence in masculinity. There is a subtlety that not everyone notices. Mature women don't just need someone to listen. They don't just need a warm gaze. Sometimes they need more than that. They need someone steady enough to stand by them, like an anchor quietly held in the midst of a stormy sea. When life becomes complicated, when invisible pressures pile up, she's not looking for someone to ask, "What should I do?" She's looking for a man who simply needs to be there beside her, and that's enough to bring calm to her inner turmoil. There are days when the world inside her feels like a whirlwind, tossing aside all her plans, confusing even the most peaceful thoughts. In those moments, she doesn't need more advice, nor does she need empty words of comfort. She needs someone quiet enough to be a silent support, a tree standing firm in the rain, unwavering without promises, silent yet radiating safety. The strength she longs for does not come from flowery words or grand gestures. It comes from silent power, from the calm in every small gesture, a deep gaze, a gentle nod, patience that doesn't need to be displayed. A man like that doesn't need to promise to always be by her side. He just needs to truly be there. So the tranquility within him permeates every breath, every moment of silence. There's a comfort that's hard to name when you're beside someone who doesn't try to interrupt your sorrow, who doesn't rush to heal your wounds. Mature women understand that the most enduring things often come from those who know how to listen with silence. A hand offered at the right moment, a gaze that doesn't demand explanation, a soft silence. Sometimes that's all they need to stand firm in their own life. The steady man doesn't need to rescue her from chaos. He doesn't try to bear all her burdens. He simply stands there, like a steady heartbeat beside her, like a silent current mending the old cracks, helping her realize she's not alone in this vast world. And in that moment, you don't just touch her fleeting sorrow or joy. You touch the deepest part, the place she stopped expecting, but still silently yearns for. A man steady enough to walk beside her quietly without forcing her to brace herself or pretend. Sometimes that's all it takes, to be quietly by her side and to be steady. That is the greatest gift you can give to a mature heart. Narpadaudu. Number 4. Intelligence and wit. On an ordinary evening, unplanned, just one clever joke makes her laugh. That laughter, brief, yet it touches the deepest part no one has ever reached. No loud words, no grand gestures, just a glance that briefly lights up and then softens, as if in that moment, an invisible door opens between two souls. A clever joke, a knowing look. Sometimes it touches deeper than the longest love confessions. Mature women are no longer captivated by flashy appearances or dramatic courtships. They yearn for a different kind of connection, a connection through intellect, through quiet yet profound conversations, where every word has the power to loosen the defenses that have existed for so long. When the intellect is awakened, their minds open, and only then does the heart truly step out of its safe zone. An attractive man in their eyes is not the one who speaks in flowery words. It is the one who makes them naturally open up about their deepest thoughts, without fear of being judged, without concern of being misunderstood. A timely intellectual stimulation is like a small key that opens a room they once thought would remain locked forever. To awaken that, you don't need to be an orator or a philosopher. You just need to know how to listen sincerely, how to drop small questions into the conversation that make her pause and think and know when to smile, as if whispering, "I'm here and I understand you." Those conversations, sometimes starting with a very simple topic, an old book, a forgotten movie, or a trivial detail in an otherwise ordinary day. In the gentle light of intellectual connection, everything becomes clearer. No more empty words, no need for defensive layers. Only two people remain, one willing to open up and one deep enough to receive. And sometimes just a small spark from a simple joke is enough to light up an entire sky in her heart. A sky she thought had been silent for a long time. Number 5, security and stability. In a world that constantly shifts, where everything from jobs to relationships can change with the tap of a screen, she longs for someone who doesn't change with the seasons, someone who, even when the winds blow and hearts waver, remains steady, so she knows that at least one thing stays the same amid all the chaos outside. Safety for a mature woman is no longer about financial stability or a future painted in beautiful words. What she needs runs deeper. It's the steadiness in small actions, in every moment of presence. It's the unspoken promise shown through how you still listen when she's tired, still stay patient when she needs time, still hold her hand without needing to say forever. The man who truly makes her feel safe is not the one who talks about everything he will do, but the one who lets her see his stability in even the smallest acts. A well-timed message, not to keep her, but to remind her she's not alone. A well-timed message, not to keep her, but to remind her she's not alone. A gaze that lingers just long enough to let her know that no matter how the world spins, there is still a quiet place beside her. Stability doesn't mean never changing. It means changing while staying grounded in what truly matters. It's walking with her through the seasons of life, through ups and downs, and still seeing peace in each other's eyes. It's choosing not to let go, not with grand declarations, but with the quiet act of simply being there every day, silently and steadily. When a woman feels safe with you, she doesn't just open her heart, she lets you into the deepest parts, the ones where she hides her hurts and fragile hopes. And from that space, love no longer needs to be clung to with promises. It becomes a natural current, like breath, like light, like a quiet rhythm shared between two souls that have found home in one another. It becomes a natural current, like breath, like light, like a quiet rhythm shared between two souls that have found home in one another. Number 6, vulnerability to loneliness. Loneliness isn't about having no one around. It's the feeling of being lost even when surrounded by many. Mature women know that feeling better than anyone. After the losses, the silent goodbyes, they've learned to smile through the emptiness. They've become skilled at hiding sadness behind busyness, convincing even the world, and sometimes themselves, that they're doing just fine, even when their hearts feel more hollow than ever. What they long for is, in truth, very simple. Not someone who bursts in like a storm, promising to fill every gap, but someone who knows how to sit beside them, remain silent when needed, smile at the right time, and be patient enough not to rush to fill the quiet spaces. Because those spaces aren't meant to be filled with promises, but with full, quiet presence. A man who truly makes her feel understood doesn't need to speak grandly. He just needs to accept the days when she is silent, the moments when she withdraws like a drifting cloud across the sky. And in those moments, he stays, not pulling her out of her world, not trying to fix her mood, but simply being there, like a quiet warmth by her side. The loneliness hidden in a woman's heart doesn't need to be erased. It is a part of who she is, a sediment of feeling that adds depth to her soul. But if you can stay with her when those moments rise, if you can lay your hand near hers without needing to hold it, just letting her know she's not alone, then you've already become a part of that quiet world, a part she no longer wishes to hide. And sometimes that's all it takes. An empty chair, no longer empty. A cup of tea that's no longer cold. A gaze that no longer looks so far away. Enough to ease the emptiness the years have quietly left behind. Number 7. Fear of being insignificant. There are fears that are never spoken. They simply grow quietly in the stillness of late nights. A mature woman, after all the roads she's walked, may have learned how to be strong, how to get back up on her own. But deep inside, a question still stirs in her loneliest moments. If I were no longer here, would anyone truly remember? It's not the fear of death, nor of visible loss. It's the fear of becoming invisible to others, of feeling like her existence has faded into something forgettable, easily passed over in the rush of everyday life. The more she grows, the sharper this fear becomes. Not because she's weaker, but because she understands too well how fragile even the most permanent things can be. The man who truly reaches her heart doesn't do it with flattery or fanfare. He makes her feel her worth by quietly seeing her as something precious, without decoration, without performance. It's when he listens, even to what she hasn't said. It's when he remembers the small things she once shared, as if every detail matters. It's when he stays beside her without needing to ask, "Do you need me?" Because his presence is already the answer. No one wants to be forgotten. But more deeply than that, everyone wants to be seen, truly, wholly as they are, with both beauty and scars. Mature women don't need someone perfect. They just need someone sensitive enough to notice the quiet light they still carry, even when they themselves sometimes forget it's there. If you are the one who makes her feel, even in silence, that her presence matters, that every moment spent with you leaves a quiet imprint on someone's heart, then you will never be someone she forgets. Not because of promises, but because of the quiet, profound feelings you've planted in her soul, like deep roots growing steadily beneath the surface, impossible to pull away. And sometimes that's all it takes, a silent presence, full of meaning, the most beautiful gift you could ever give a woman who has walked through enough seasons of solitude in her life. Behind every crack, behind every quiet fear she carries, is not a plea for someone to come and fill the emptiness. It is not a hope that a hand will reach in and pull her out of the darker corners of her heart. It is a deeper wish that someone, somewhere, will be gentle enough, patient enough, to simply stay with her, not to fix, not to pity, just to be there, the way morning light enters a room, asking nothing, forcing nothing. Mature women understand better than anyone else that no one can make them happy. Happiness isn't a gift to be handed over. It's a long journey they must walk on their own, filled with quiet struggles, stumbles, and countless times of rising alone. That's why they don't need someone who promises to make their life brighter. They only need someone strong enough to walk beside them on the path they themselves have chosen, even when that path is uneven, even when it's far from easy. The man she needs is not the one who builds a castle and invites her in. He is the one willing to walk with her through wild fields and unexpected turns, willing to slow down when she's tired, willing to stay silent when she needs space to breathe. He doesn't need to say much. His quiet persistence and his respect for the freedom of her inner world are what reach deepest into her seasoned heart. When a man can stand beside her in that way, not as a savior, not as a supervisor, but as a true companion, she will open her heart in a way she once thought she never would again. No more defenses, no more hiding. Because in the end, what truly moves a mature woman is not pretty words, but the feeling of being understood without being judged, of being loved without needing to be perfect. What she never says out loud may just be the simplest truth. Let me be who I am, and if you can, love even the parts of me I've never dared to bring into the light. No demands for change, no request to bow down, just someone quiet enough to see her silent beauty and patient enough to walk with her through every season of silence. Because love, for a mature woman, is not conquest. It is not salvation. It is steady presence, quiet as breath, rhythmic as a heartbeat. A presence deep enough to let her know she no longer has to fight her battles alone in this vast world. You don't need to leave grand marks on her life. A gaze that sees deeply, one moment of honest listening. Sometimes that's enough to become a quiet scarlet note on the pages of her memory. A place she will always keep, no matter how time changes. Mature women no longer long for thunderous storms. They've been through enough tempests to know that noise often leaves nothing but emptiness. What they need now is a gentle presence, a quiet breath, just enough to stir the rhythms that once fell asleep within their soul. When you understand that you don't have to conquer her, don't have to win her heart, but only need to be delicate enough to stay, the space between the two of you will naturally be woven with trust. No need for long promises, no need for grand declarations, just the smallest, most persistent actions so that each day she feels your presence is a steady part of her life. True attraction, for a mature woman, doesn't come from standing out in a crowd. It comes from the quiet patience you offer, the way you see her not just on the surface, but through the light and shadow of her inner world, the way you stay, even when she needs silence, the way you understand without needing to ask too much. Choose how you touch the landscape of her soul, not through rushed storms, but through quiet, unwavering steadiness. Through that quiet persistence, you may become the one she never wants to let go of. Because in the world of those who have weathered enough seasons, what remains in the end is not the roar of sudden thunder. It is the gentle breath of silent winds, enough to make a heart that thought it had gone quiet begin to stir once more.